Now, from the studios of Into Tomorrow in Miami, this is ITTV.
Online collaboration has become the norm over the last couple of years. Our next guest's company offers a platform that provides thoughtfully designed remote-first digital experiences. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Frameable, Adam Riggs. Adam, thanks for joining us. Welcome Into Tomorrow. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine and happy to be here.
Glad to have you with us. First of all, what is remote-first digital experiences? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, remote first, I think, just refers to the fact that, we're not always able to be together. It doesn't mean that we can never be together. And it also doesn't mean that these tools are not helpful when we are together. But it's really just emphasizing that the purpose of the tools, or the core initial value proposition, starts with how can we work effectively, efficiently, and in an inspired way with people who we're not able to be with most of the time, or in some cases ever.
Okay, so we hear a lot about virtual spaces and people being able to use virtual spaces, certainly more environmentally friendly, I guess, as an alternative to a lot of in-person gatherings, certainly more convenient. And I'm assuming that even when we're back to whatever normal is after the pandemic, when we've all had to do everything virtually, it's still much more convenient. I still like the ability to do a Zoom interview as we're doing now as well. So folks listening on the radio can come and see all of our interviews at intotomorrow.com. So do you think that that's really kind of an opportunity? More and more people are saying we've gotten used to it. Why not keep it up?
Absolutely agree with you, Dave. In-person experiences are always going to be different and special from anything that's remote, that's possible for a long time to come. But the remote first, or the remote interaction like the one we're having today, also has a lot of incredible advantages. First, there's a much smaller environmental footprint. Second, as you mentioned, it's very convenient. It allows people to interact without setting aside so much time for travel. Maybe the travel wouldn't even be possible. Maybe this conversation, if we had to have it in person, couldn't happen for 3 months or until next year or something like that. So it is just extremely convenient, extremely environmentally friendly, and there are many other advantages as well.
So I'm assuming then that you're, for the most part, a business-to-business kind of platform, right? That this is really opportunities for companies to work well together, whether it's within that company or other companies, prospects, that sort of thing. But are there some ways that consumers can use Frameable's remote tools for work, or maybe even in general?
Absolutely. So I think there are two ways to answer that question, or two parts to my answer. The first is that many of the products that we make are available to and helpful for individual buyers, individual consumers. The second way is that companies need to be in tune with the expectations, the shifting expectations of their employees. So even though some of our products might more likely be purchased by at the company level, the individual users are the employees and are the people in that company's workforce. And so it's important for the company to stay in tune with the expectations of the employees. Technology that people use in their personal lives, it does end up coming into the workplace in the form of their expectations about how easy things should be, how convenient things should be. And it's important for companies to keep that in mind when they're choosing tools and when they're designing their work from home or their remote work experiences that they're going to offer their employees.
Sure. Can you give us some ideas, Adam, about some of the ways that Frameable is implementing productivity so that we get a better handle on the kinds of stuff that we're talking about here?
Sure. So most of our most of our tools are video forward or video first, we would say. They are not exclusively video on required. So in other words, you can use our video tools, our video forward tools like Rehive or like Social Hour, which is an event platform. You don't have to have your camera on in order to use them. So we support audio only, we support screen sharing, and we support video on interactions like the one that you and I are having right now. So we see the opportunity as existing on a spectrum. On one side of the spectrum are events. Events are things that have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They usually have a run of show or an agenda of some kind. And when people participate in an event, they have an expectation. Their expectations have been developed by the host, and then they will come, they will participate. It might be active for them or it might not, and then they'll leave. These examples of this would be something like a birthday party or a sales kickoff, a whole variety of personal and professional event types. At the other end of the spectrum is what we call persistent virtual space. So in persistent virtual space, there is no beginning time or ending time for the space to exist. It exists whether or not you're using it, much more like physical real estate. And this is a place where people can come together either because of a certain theme or a certain style of work or a certain type of work that they're going to be doing together. And they can go there anytime they want. And they can find their colleagues, they can find their friends or colleagues, they can find their teammates, and they can do that work. So on the one side is the event business, and on the other side is what we call persistent virtual space that's not tied to specific events. And companies and individuals, they'll all have different needs as far as which parts of the spectrum they are dialed into. Like some companies and some users are only interested in the event side because they want to do certain types of events with their customers, or people want to have certain kinds of events with their families. That's all fine. Other of our customers are entirely focused on persistent virtual spaces for their workforce or for their school or for their organization so that volunteers can come together. So each user is going to have a different sort of interest about where they're going to be on that spectrum.
It sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for some really good collaboration, especially among colleagues. When you talk about there's areas where folks can just kind of jump in anytime and work with each other. It sounds to me like a real good collaborative effort.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. We ask ourselves, and we try to help our clients ask themselves the question, if we were able to design a persistent virtual space for our employees or our teammates or our partners to come together to do work, what are its characteristics? This goes, as you immediately know, way beyond a video box next to another video box. A meeting can be had just with two video boxes right next to each other, like we have. Yeah. But an office space or a meeting space or a university space, these are different from just one meeting, and they cannot be replicated in virtual space with just meeting software.
And of course, you talk a lot about being able to do screen shares with your platform as well. Can you quickly show us a couple of examples, for example, of how you might be doing something along those lines so that we can also see, again,
Absolutely.
at intotomorrow.com, what you're talking about?
Absolutely. So let me share my screen, and I will give an example. So this is our virtual office. Each one of these boxes is a meeting room. And inside that meeting room, one of several things are happening. Either the meeting room is empty, but it's available for colleagues and for outside meetings to take place. Another scenario would be one person working in one of these rooms on their own, and they can transmit what they're working on, and they can also transmit a status. Like you see, we have one colleague here in the arcade who's focusing on insights, and another colleague in the atrium who's having lunch, etc. And then in the rooms where you see 2 or 3 people, those are actually group meetings. Those people may or may not have their camera on. They might be sharing their screens, looking at a code editor, looking at a video editor, looking at marketing copy, etc. So this is a persistent space that we come together in every day to do work. And these are the kinds of spaces that, if you're talking not about the event side, but about the persistent virtual space side of the spectrum that I explained, this is an example of a small instance, and we have a lot we can do with different types of spaces. We can have an auditorium where you might have 1,000 or 1,500 people in that auditorium. You might have individual offices. You might have project offices, etc.
Wow. I see there's a lot of opportunity. I notice no one's in the Sky Lounge, so maybe you and I should meet there and have a refreshing adult beverage. If that's what the Sky Lounge can do, I don't know.
No, another time we could absolutely arrange that.
Yeah. So I can see then that there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of suggestions to help one's business and your clients, no doubt. I'm noticing on your website too, thoughtfully designed tools for work and play. So that almost suggests, is there perhaps a gaming element to what you guys do as well, or what would be the play part?
Yes, absolutely. So, it's a fine line to walk, Dave. We don't view work as a game, and we try not to build software that explicitly looks and feels very gamey or gamified. But we do have actual games embedded in our software so that people who are going to have an interaction with one another, maybe with people who they don't know as well, can play a game together in order to facilitate some bonding. This is actually a well-known, established through research path for getting people who don't know each other well to interact with each other in a sort of a more loose and casual way. Maybe so new ideas can come forth, a brainstorming exercise is maybe what's on tap, and it's a nice thing to do. People do it in physical offices as well. You see Rubik's Cubes and fidgets and little games around physical offices now more than you have before. And so we have some games that are actually built into our software to facilitate a kind of a loosening up in certain moments like that. It's also built into not only is it built into our persistent space software, but it's also built into the event software. Maybe that's the whole point is, we're going to play some word games together. Maybe we're going to hear from our leader, and then we're going to play some word games. Maybe the word games have themes, or there's a puzzle game as well. So lots of ways to work puzzles and games in without making that the entire focus. Yeah.
Kind of hard to do things like trust falls virtually, but by the same token, it's also safer. So exactly. We invite our audience to learn more about remote-first digital experiences by visiting Frameable at frameableinc.com. And of course, we'll get you there when you visit us at intotomorrow.com. Adam Riggs, the founder and CEO of Frameable. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, and keep us informed about the other cool new things that you might be working on as we head further into tomorrow.
Thank you, Dave. We will, and it was great to be here.
Our pleasure. frameableinc.com. And again, as I mentioned, we'll get you there as we do with all of our guests when you visit us at intotomorrow.com. I'm Dave Graveline. Stay tuned. There's much more to come here on Into Tomorrow, right here on the Advanced Media Network.